everyone, this is Nikki from the design team, and today we are going to look at this bright colored card. This is using the Sizzix Tim Holtz Blossoms die. It's got lots of pieces and it really makes a very realistic looking flower. In this video, I'm going to show you all the pieces, we're going to ink blend, and I'm going to show you some interesting things about a color wheel that may help you to pick your colors a little bit better. So for the flower part of the blossom, we have 3 dies. This is the background die, then we have a middle one right here, which is a little bit bigger, and you do see that background just ever so slightly. You see it in the middle of the flower, and you see it around the edges. So the background should be your darkest color for most people. You can always do it however you want, but that's the way I do it. Then you got your middle layer and your third layer, and these do fit together really well. I'll show you some little tricks on getting them to fit perfectly. Then we also have 2 dies for the leaves. So you've got that 3 thing of leaves, and then you've got the middle, which can be your darker or your lighter, however you want to do it. And then we have 2 center pieces. So these center pieces don't cover the entire center. So you've got to decide what color on the base you want to peek through right there around the middle. And you want to use some type of paper that's easy to ink blend on. So I'm going to use Bristol Smooth, cut this up, and I'm going to die cut all of my pieces out, and then I will ink blend them with some blending brushes. Okay, let's get into the color wheel. I love color wheels and they just really help do a lot of things. But today I had never played with using 4 different colors, which is called a tetrad. And you can see on this color wheel, it gives you the options for a triad being 3 colors, the complementary, which is 2, and then the tetrad. And so I've done all of the others frequently, but I just thought I'm gonna try this and see how bright of a card I can make. So I'll be using Catherine Pooler inks, and you can see this color wheel is from Catherine Pooler, and so it actually has the labels on there for what you're doing. So we're going to use 3 reds because we have 3 layers of that blossom. So It's a Girl, Party Dress, and Rockin' Red. And then I'm going to use 2 of the orangish yellows, which are Tiara and Catching Rays. And I'm going to lay these out all together so you can see them. And then we'll have a green and we'll have a blue violet. Okay, so I changed my shot so you could see a little bit better, but the greens, we only need 2 of them, so we're using In the Park and Mardi Gras. And then we only need 2 of the blue violets, which are Serenade and Drive-In. So I know I've got a mixture of minis and regulars. They're all the same brand of ink, they're just different sizes. So we're doing, like I said, our reds, our blue violets, our orange yellows, and then the 4th point is green. So we're going to put all these colors together, and I'm going to show you how outstanding this card looks. Alright, so I'm going to ink blend the background, and these inks are reactive to water, so you can splash water on them. And what I end up doing is using a water and perfect pearls mixture just to give it a little bit of sparkle, which I know is hard to see in the video. But I start out with the lightest of this blue violet, which is called Serenade, and I want to cover the entire background with this color. And then I'm going to come in with Drive-In around the edges so that it's a spotlight type effect on the card. We're going to be putting our flowers right in the middle, and so I want to make sure that it gives it just a little bit of that kind of like 3D spotlight effect. So I'm going back and forth between these colors, trying to create some darkness on the outside of the cardstock, and it goes into a lighter color on the middle. So here it is, that's the final color, and then I'm going to spray this with some perfect pearls and water, and I'm going to hold it up close to the lens so that you can see. It is hard to tell all the sparkle, but I hope you can get an idea there. So a lot of times with die cut cards, I actually refer to the picture, and with this picture, what is going on is the background is this really dark color. So this one, I'm going to create the darkest color, which I'm going to use Rockin' Red for. And then our middle color is, on this one, it's the lightest, but I'm going to go in color order. So I'm going to go middle with this one. So Party Dress on the middle. And then I'm going to use my lightest as this final layer right here. And that is going to be It's a Girl. So, of course, you don't have to keep up with all these. I will put them in the description for you. So you basically need to blend this entire background. I love to hold up my background that I'm going to use and kind of decide how bright I want that color to be, because you have a lot of different options. So I decide I want it to be an even brighter, more red versus that lighter color, because I just thought that would look so nice against that purpley background. So I'm going to get this ink blended. We'll move to the next one. And like I said, I did the entire thing and went around the edges and made the edges just even a little bit darker. So that's what it looks like with the Rockin' Red. And now we're going to move to Party Dress for the middle layer. Now you definitely want to clean off your layers in between for a couple reasons. One, you don't want the colors to bleed onto the next layer and change what color you're going to be using. And two, with these silicone mats, they usually don't stain too terribly, but if you leave ink on them for a long time, it gets a little harder to get off. So especially with my reds and purples, I try to make sure to clean my mat really well in between just to make sure I don't leave a big stain on them. I am using a sticky note to hold this piece down, and you need to do something to protect it from your fingerprints. So I use sticky notes a lot. You could use a piece of tape. There's a lot of different ways you could do this, but just something to hold it down, and then you can move that sticky note around and blend what was underneath it, and it just works really well. Pretty easy fix for not getting fingerprints on your beautiful ink blending. For the last one we're going to use It's a Girl. It's a light pink, and I'm using a little smaller brush to make sure I get some good color on this. I will use my sticky note again when I'm ready to hold this down, but you can tell even on the mat this is a much lighter color, so it's going to take a little bit more effort depending on how dark you want it to be. But it's just nice to be able to do this little piece really quick. You can also do your ink blending by blending an area and cutting your die cut out of it. I just like to be able to have a little bit more ink on the tips and things like that. I just feel like I have a little more control when I'm doing it like this. So here's what it looks like. You can always go and add some more color, and then let me show you on the actual background. And here's the flower. So I've got a bright pink flower, and then it's going to look amazing on this purple background. Look at how bright this is going to be. Okay, let's get our leaves and center done. I created 2 sets of leaves, and I used In the Park, which is the lighter color, on the big part of the leaf, and then I used the darker color, which is called Mardi Gras, on the middle. And I did that, I just like that look of a leaf. Some people like to make the middle of the leaf lighter. You can do whatever you want to, but I did 2 sets of these so that we would have 3 main pieces on the front. I just feel like things in triplet look a little bit better on the front of a card, so I added 2 leaves. So for the middle of the flower, I've got 2 colors, Catching Rays and Tiara, and you see I've cut 2 pieces, but when I put these pieces together, I realized that I should have left, from the way I wanted the card to look, I should have left the little dots in the one that I'm stamping now, because where you line those up and how these 2 fit together, those dots will show what is on your background. And remember, my background is that Rockin' Red, and I just thought I wanted it all to be this color. So I ended up doing a 3rd one of these and putting it behind it so it's got some extra dimension to it, but that way you don't see through to the red on my card. You'll also notice that I'm taking the die cut piece and putting it directly on the stamp pad. I could have ink blended this, but they're very little pieces and I wanted them to be fairly dark, so I decided to take the stamp pad directly to them. It's a very easy thing to do with Catherine Pooler inks because they have a lot of ink in them, and you can use this bit of ink that you get on your mat and add with a little ink blender if you want to add some extra detail to it, but it's nice just to get the whole thing colored by putting it directly on the stamp pad. Here's what I mean. I would be able to see my red background through those holes, so that's why I made a 3rd piece to make sure that I had that covered. Okay, so now I decided I wanted to add a little sparkle to the centerpiece. I thought about doing it in gold, but I really wanted to keep with our color scheme and make sure that we had everything that was just inks so that you could see what a tetrad looked like. So I decided to use this embossing powder from Lawn Fawn called Unicorn Sparkle. So it has a lot of sparkle to it. It does have some white pigment to it, but it's not one of those that is made like when I do this, I don't get complete coverage, so I can still see a little bit of my orange through it, and I kind of think that makes it look really cool. I just love how good those look together. I wish you could see the sparkle better. So I'm going to show you how to put this flower together. Do you see these 2 petals? To me, they are very obvious because they're a little bit shorter and they're kind of paired up to each other. So if you can find those two petals on each of these flowers, it helps you to put it together better. So see how this fits perfectly? The next way for the other layer is it also lines up perfectly with the center pieces, so you can adjust it that way. But if this first bigger piece, I feel like you need to figure out which petals go where, and those two little petals are very obvious, and so it helps you get it together. Now with this last piece, you can look for those petals. They're not quite as obvious on the third piece, but the middle fits perfectly. So if you keep turning it to where you get everything lined up, it fits perfectly like this. See how I got the puzzle piece right in at that point? So just make sure you've got them all lined up, and then you can glue this one down. And remember, I told you I did 3 pieces of this yellow so that we couldn't see through it. So it's got a little area that looks like to me like a little bite out of a cookie right here. And that helps you fit all of your pieces together, if you see. So now I've got them fit together. I can glue everything. I'll glue the leaves, and then let's look at how we laid out this card. I decided to do a horizontal A2 card, so I'm going to put my leaves out here and make that flower the center focal point for this whole thing. So once I get this done, I am going to add a sentiment. What should I have added the sentiment before I did my ink blending? Probably if you're gonna do some embossing, that's an easier way to do it, but I didn't know what I was gonna use. I thought I was gonna use a sentiment strip across this, but I hated to hide my beautiful flower. So I decided I'd use this Catherine Pooler stamp set, which of course I will link for you, and I'm just gonna write "To You Friend" so that I can make this card a happy birthday card or just an all occasion card. So for consistency, I decided that I'd use that same Lawn Fawn unicorn sparkle down here in the bottom. And I just feel like if you keep elements similar on your card, it gives it more consistency and it just really is very pleasing to the eye. So I'll use To You Friend, and I'm going to use unicorn sparkle heat embossing. And here's how that looks up close. I know it's still hard to see the sparkle. I wish that you could see that for real. But I'm going to show you a quick way that if you wanted this sentiment to be a little darker, you can add some gel pen and create a little darker white. So I'm going to do that just to create, it's a chunky glittery area, so it's not a complete solid sentiment. So I'm going to use my white pen and add where I feel like it needs a little bit more. But that's the end of this card. I so enjoyed having you. Make sure you play with your color wheel and tell me what you think about this ultra bright card. Are you a bright card person? Had you prefer more light colors? I'd love to know in the comments, so leave me a little bit of info, and I hope that you all have a wonderful day. Here's the final of the card. Please make sure to hit the like and subscribe, and all of the products I used will be linked in the description. I hope to see you on the channel again soon. Have a great day. Bye!